Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes just to jump on. Make sure you've got your cup of coffee, glass of wine, if you're into that kind of thing before midday, depending on where you are in the world. But we'll just do a bit of housekeeping, and then I'm going to hand over to David, Nick, and Lara to do a fantastic job today on the webinar that we've got to present to you. So my name's David from XU Magazine. You may have come through to the webinar today through XU or through other means. And just to confirm that with the webinar being hosted by XU today, we are fully CPD accredited, which means that you're going to get your CPD points, so a nice tick there when you get to the end of the year and you fill in your CPD register for your relevant body. We'll send through details of that out after as well. We're not expecting any issues today, so if you are having any issues in terms of internet, things like that, first of all, check you've not got any kids watching Netflix next door. That's usually the biggest culprit. Kick them off, get them to go and play outside. Maybe not outside, it's a little bit windy, but get them to do something else. And then hopefully that resolve any internet issues that you might have. If it gets really bad, just close it down, reopen it via the link, and that should work, but we're not expecting any issues today. What you should see at the bottom is a chat box. So please use this now. Just put something in there, say hello. It's always good to know that it's working, that people can see us, hear us properly before we kick off. Hi, Tina. So as we're going through the webinar today as well, please use that chat box to ask any questions. We have got a dedicated Q&A section at the end. Nick did say that if something comes in it's relevant, he might pick it up as he goes along, but please just plonk any questions that you've got in there and we'll make sure we get all of them cleared up today. Hi everyone, I can see you coming through, which is great. Plenty of people jumping on. Sarah, Miranda, Bryn, hi everyone. So that's good. It's nice to know when people can see us and hear us. Okay, so just to confirm, the webinar today is recorded. So if you have to jump out, if you miss any parts of it, we'll send that out after and you can pick that up. If you've got any colleagues, any friends, anybody, business associates that you think actually this is going to be worth sending to afterwards as well, please forward the link on to them to make sure that they can watch it after if they're not able to jump on today as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to David now to introduce himself, Nick and Lara for today. And over to you, David.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, David, and good morning, everyone. My name's David Tuck. I'm going to be hosting the webinar this morning. I am sort of 15 years into my career. I'm a trained accountant to kind of start my career. Then did a succession of SME startup finance leader roles. I then went on to found a business called Chaser, which many of you will be familiar with, accounts receivable software. So did that for 7 years, won Xero's App Partner of the Year Award, the Accounting Web Cloud App of the Year for 3 years in a row doing that. And for the last kind of 18 months, I've been consulting with businesses in and around the accounting tech space, Comma being one of those, alongside more sort of recently starting my next business, which launched in a couple of weeks' time, Mayday, which is first product all about helping businesses automate their intercompany recharges. And alongside that, yeah, really excited to continue the fantastic work, get to do with a fantastic team and product that is Comma, and to be kind of collaborating today and hosting the webinar. So without further ado, I'll pass on to Nick from Comma to introduce himself.
Thanks a lot, David. Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar today. So yeah, my name's Nick. I am the marketing manager at Comma. I've been here for, I'm my 5th longest serving employee now, and I've been here for just almost a year. Anyone who's connected me on LinkedIn would have seen the anniversary card this week. So yeah, it's been, before this, I didn't actually have much exposure in the accountancy world, and I was always FX based for like the last 10 years of my working life. But over this last year, I've really learned a lot from the accountancy space, from my customers, from the product, and from consultants and people that we've worked with like David, who've really taught me tons about like the problems that are going on and the things that we that Comma are doing to solve those. Really come into it. So yeah, it's been a journey. We learned a lot over last year, and I'm really excited to sort of take you through what we've managed to achieve, the products we've got, and also just talk about like highlight some of our customers, which brings us to Lara and some of the amazing things that they're doing, both with our products but with other products out there and as a business. So yeah, I'm really excited to bring this webinar to you today, and I'll pass you over to the wonderful Lara.
Thank you very much, Nick. So yeah, I'm Lara Manton. I run LJM Bookkeeping Limited. I'm an ICB qualified bookkeeper, and I've been running my practice for just over 11 years. If you follow me on LinkedIn or you've seen me anywhere else, I'm into cloud-based software and using software to achieve efficiency within the bookkeeping role, and also sort of for clients. So I tend to provide a full outsourced accounts department for clients, so the whole function. So I look for things that can make mine and my clients' lives easier, which is why about 6 months ago I came across Comma, looking for something to sort of help with all the payment runs and various other bits that I do on a weekly basis, and how to sort of make that easier without having to retype information multiple times. So my whole business tagline is accuracy, continuity and efficiency, and obviously software makes up quite a large element of that.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much, Nick and Lara, for your intros. And Nick, congratulations on your 1 year Comma anniversary. And yeah, Lara, an ace introduction. Really excited to to kind of dig in more to the kind of, you know, the LJM story, offering, and the work that you're doing with Comma. In terms of giving everyone an overview of the structure today, we're going to talk first about why Comma exists, the story of Comma, with Nick, how kind of Comma solves the problems that it's in the world to solve, and Nick will be doing a brief kind of run through of the product. We're then going to speak to Lara and learn about her and the LJM past, present, and future. And then we're going to get into the kind of the LJM and specifically, you know, Comma kind of work that you're doing together, and what the problems that's solving to clients and for you as a firm, and exactly how that works. There'll then be time for questions and answers for both Nick and Lara at the end. Please do fire them through in the chat as they arise, and if there's the opportunity, we'll pick them up and ask them there and then. But if not, we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. So yeah, it promises to be a great kind of session today. And yeah, without further ado, Nick, let's talk Comma, why it exists, and the story of Comma. What's the problem that SMEs have?
Yeah, definitely. So the problem that we've seen SMEs have is when it comes to making payments. So there's great accounting tools that have started to develop over the last few years, and like the first part of that is a cloud-based accounting software like Xero, Sage, QuickBooks, which really changed the way that accountants can do these things and become more cloud-based. And then we've seen sort of obviously COVID come, and we've seen like a massive uprise in outsourcing finance and bringing in external finance teams to help. Especially with sort of startups and people in the smaller scale businesses, but there's always been a bit of an issue where when it comes to payments. So payments it's a very antiquated process. It's still done the same way we done it years ago, and things like BACS files, or the biggest problem is actually manually keying in data to a bank account. So you've got your bills, you've got your invoices, you've got everything that you need to pay, but maybe your external bookkeeper or your accountant's like produced and given to you in a shareable format, maybe through Excel or however they share that process with you at the end of month end or end of that payment process. But what SMEs have to do is they don't have to either find their business owner or whoever has bank access. So that's probably usually someone quite senior who doesn't have the time of day to really go in and key these payments in one by one, or they have to figure out a way of giving access to that account to someone either in the business or to the external bookkeeper, which generally, from what we've learned from accountants and bookkeepers, isn't something that's really that people want to do. People don't want access to accounts that they don't own, right? And I struggled with this personally. When I joined Comma to begin with, Tom, our CEO, tried to get me access to our bank account, and it took about 8 weeks to do so, even though I was a member of that company and a senior member of that team. It was just impossible. It took so long. There was paperwork which went back and forth. I had to sign things, Tom had to sign things. It was just it was a nightmare. So yeah, what we've tried to do with Comma, what we've done through open banking, which has really made this whole thing possible, and I'll tie into that a little bit more in a bit, but we've managed to build a way to just streamline that process. So rather than sharing payment links and sharing Excel files and sharing payments and pay slips and whatever it may be through email chains, which usually have to copy in sort of your business owner and maybe someone in finance or maybe someone in ops, we can actually streamline that process, make it really secure, and yeah, just add security to that and automation to the whole process.
Amazing. So yeah, in summary, it comes through really clearly. It's the pain of making payments with all the sort of manual processing information, keying it in order to make those as a business, and how susceptible that is to human error, coupled with, for the SME who really doesn't want to do that themselves and would love their virtual finance function providing accountant or bookkeeper to do it for them, the reticence on the part of that accountant or bookkeeper to have access to the client's bank account, if they can even get it in the first place. You talk about the 8 weeks you needed to get added to that bank account.
Exactly that, yeah. So like making payments isn't fun. Like there's hardly anyone out there that enjoys making payments, either personally or as a business. So the process of actually going into your bank account and keying in your supplier details, the amount that you're paying them, your reference, and doing that one by one for all the bills you have to pay in any month or whatever that may be, it's not a fun task. And let's be honest, it's quite stressful at times, because as soon as you do something wrong, the backlash or the effect that has on the business, on yourself, it could be really stressful. And one of the use cases we've got behind it is really payroll in particular. Like paying your staff is such a key thing to do. Like it is really important. Like there is that sense of like they're part of your team, right? They're part of your family. You have to make sure that they're paid, and they've got bills to pay, they've got mortgages to keep up with. And as soon as something goes wrong in that process, it can add a lot of stress to a business owner or a business in general. So just being able to take that stress away or ease that stress and make it more of something that you can outsource almost. And Lara is a great use case of that, being able to pass that onto your bookkeeper in a really safe, secure way that doesn't add any risk to Lara or any bookkeeper or business like that. But you still get the full benefit of that as an end user, as an SME. It's just something that we've managed to do with Comma, and we think it's really effective.
Amazing. All right, and I think that's such an important point. It's not just the pain of carrying out the process; it's how high the stakes are in the event that you make a mistake and get it wrong. Amazing.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I was just going to say, like we've spoke to accountants and bookkeepers that do payroll in particular, and they do it weekly, and on a certain day that week they have to be available. Like you have to be able to get up, key in, make sure these payments are made. You can't go on holiday, or if you do, you need to make sure that you take a pause from your holiday, because you need to make sure that these payments are made. Otherwise, staff don't get paid. So it's just like a really stressful process. And I feel like with the advancements in open banking and advancements in tech in general, we've managed to take that stress away.
Amazing. Well, I think that's the perfect juncture to get into it. So brilliantly framed. How does Comma solve these problems? Yeah,
perfect. I'll jump into a demo, and I'll show you exactly sort of what Comma does and the value it can add to that whole process. So just share my screen, and I hope you can see that. Thumbs up if you can.
Yeah, cool. That's great.
Perfect. So Comma is a platform which can be used by bookkeepers and outsourced, or it can be used internally by a finance team as one business operation. But in this example, we can see we've got two companies linked. So I'm going to go through the process as if I'm Lara or someone who's acting as a bookkeeper or as an external finance person. And basically, here's my companies. I'm going to click through and see my business. And what we've done is, what Comma first does to set up an account, we link to your accounting software. So we connect your Xero, your QuickBooks, your Sage account to Comma. We synchronize all that data. So we collect the supplier information, any bills that are outstanding, and basically all the information that's stored within your accounting package is pulled through into the Comma platform. And from here, you can see a list of all the outstanding bills. This is all of our demo information. So there's a bit of a madness to this. Everything's kind of overdue, and usually it'll be a lot more smooth than this, but you get the gist of the idea of what you're looking at here. And from here, really, a bookkeeper or accountant can then start to build a payment run. So they can start to recommend the payments that this business makes at the end of this process. Let's just say month end. These are all the suppliers you need to pay. These are the amounts. These are the references. This is all the information that we recommend. And usually sometimes we go into, like, as I said, an Excel list that gets sent over, and then someone has to then go through them one by one and make sure they make those payments. What we do differently here is you can select these bills. These are just all invoices. I'm just going to select just a group of them from on here. And you can see as we select them, we tally up the amounts that get paid. And once we click review and pay, it'll take us into what we call a virtual payment run. So we click those 11 payments. They are to 5 suppliers. They're batch them together based on sort of if there's more than one payment to that supplier. There's, as you can see here, Central Copiers, for example, has 3 payments. And we put them into, let me just, I've just got to move our faces out of the way on Zoom, put them into a really collated way, which is really easy to see, and just make sure that we can review them before we share any of this information with the client, and we say to them, this is what we've prepared. We can make any changes and make sure that we're happy with what we've got here. So what we've seen is because we've connected to Xero in this case, we've pulled through the supplier information that we store inside Xero. So you don't need to go and find invoices and find supplier information anymore. It's already there. It's all in sync, and it takes that process out of this whole payment journey. We can remove things from the run. So I'm just going to remove just this larger bill here, because we're not going to pay that till next month, for example. So it's going to drop off the payment flow there. And in fact, I'm going to just jump over to one I prepared earlier, because it is just a bit of a smaller run, so we can pay. I'm actually going to make a payment on this demo, so I'll just make one. Otherwise, my boss will be wondering where all the money's moved from that account, and we'll be we'll have our bookkeeper will be annoyed with us. But yeah, here's the payment I did earlier. It's just 5 suppliers, the same ones we've got there. These are the total amounts for each of them. And at this point, as you can see at the top, this one has a virtual link, and it has a unique ID as part of that URL. So this can be shared with a client, and what they'll do is they'll then click through that link. They'll come straight through to this page. Obviously, they've been invited to this business already, and they'll land on here. And basically, this is what my bookkeeper has suggested I pay this month. So I can then come in here, I can have a look at it without having to do emails backwards and forwards. I can make changes. So I can say, right, we've actually negotiated with our supplier that we're not going to pay both of these invoices. We've only received half the goods. The next part's coming next month, so we'll pay the next part next month. And really, we can just make any amends that we want as part of this. The other thing you'll see is that we've already connected our bank account. So the way Comma works is through open banking. So we're not setting up any intermediary accounts. We're not opening a virtual account in between that we have to pre-fund. We're actually using the existing business bank account. And we're pushing this data through APIs, through open banking, to that bank to make a batch payment. So I've connected our Barclays business account. We work with basically all the major banks that you can think of. The only notable exclusion from that is Metro at the moment, which doesn't have any bulk payment APIs or any open banking APIs currently available. But in this instance, I'm going to make a payment through our Barclays business account. To link your account in the first place, or you need to have bank access. So you need to, the first time as a business owner or whoever makes that payment at the business, will need to log on to Comma. We need to identify themselves. In this for Barclays, is with our PIN Century and our card. We then link the account, and that stays linked for 90 days. That needs to be refreshed every 3 months, just as part of the regulations that go with it. But from here, once everything's set up, that account's linked for 90 days. So next time I come in next month to make a payment, I don't have to repeat that process. We're already here. So you can see, done that process once, we're ready to go. So I've reviewed the run. I'm happy with everything to get paid, and I'm ready to pay it. So as a business owner, in this example, I'm going to go through. I've just realised I've not activated my account. Amazing. I'm going to go through and click pay, but you have to just jump into. I'm going to have to just jump into my Slack and make sure that someone activates that account really quick for me. Sorry, this is a bad prep for me, right? Oh, wait. But yeah, ultimately, what you were doing is we're going to then push that list of payments to the bank account. And what it will ask us to do is it will ask us to log in. It will ask us to identify ourselves. So you still need to have bank access to make a payment. So although, for example, my bookkeeper may have prepared the run for me and my account is linked, they still need to be able to identify themselves and make a payment. That security is still in place before you can go any further and make a payment. So I'm just going to type in Slack really quickly.
That's great, and this is probably a really good opportunity. There's a question from Alex in the chat about, are you proposing the bookkeeper sends the backs run to the client and they push the payment through?
If I can jump in here, sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, amazing.
Yes, that's what I do with a significant number of my clients that use it. You can do either way, but traditionally what I do is I get to this stage, I prepare it, I then share it, as Nick showed you. I'll drop that potentially in, what I'll normally do is drop that in an email with any sort of additional information. So for example, can you please make sure that this is done by this date? If for example, if I'm adding an HMRC payment for PAYE or VAT, letting them know about that, letting them know about anything else. And then I will send, basically I'll send that to the client, and that's me done. Then the client will go in, they will make the amends, as Nick said. They might say if there's a big invoice on there, they might actually say we're only going to pay part of it, or as Nick said, you might take something off if they know something that they haven't told me, and then they make the payment. So I don't have bank access for some of my clients, so I'm not the one making the payments. I am sending that to the business owner for them to, I've put all the information in, made sure, checked it versus what I know, checked it versus Xero. If someone's told me that they need something on a different pace scale, I've sort of added something in, or and then I've sent it on to the client for them to then make the payment.
Amazing.
I'm being told that I've got my account set up. Just confirming that. Sorry about this, guys.
All right. No, amazing. Well, we got a great. So Alex said, makes sense. Are we able to send them a link using that share button?
Yes. So the share button pops. Sorry, because the share button pops the link. And you can email that across, but they have to be set up within Comma. So if they are not, if they don't have access, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if they don't have access to that Comma organisation, they won't be able to see it. So there is some security around that link. So they can only have access. That link will only take them to this page that Nick's got up if they are a user of that of that Comma organisation.
Exactly that, yeah. So you can use this with multiple businesses, and obviously those payment runs are still unique to the users that have access to them. So every organisation has a set of users which you can invite within the tool, and they'll only be able to see their organisation. So it keeps everything secure, so that nobody sort of can. Let's just say, for example, someone got access to your email, they couldn't click on that link and do anything because it wouldn't let them in. They'd have to log into Comma and be a user and be invited to that company. It's all working now, so thanks for I'm actually glad it kind of worked out. So it was a great insight there, Lara, into how you use Comma. But yeah, I'm just going to pick up where we were. So as you mentioned, you can share this, you can share a URL, you can drop it in Slack, WhatsApp, whatever it may be, send them an email, and that email will pre-populate and contain this link into this run. And once everything's ready to be paid, you'll click the pay button as a user, and it'll take you to what we call first the summary screen. This is where you can, again, select a payment date, and I'll touch on this in a second when we talk about payroll. This is really effective because we mentioned usually you have to wake up maybe Friday morning, make sure everyone's paid first thing in the morning, but don't need to do that anymore. You can log in on the Wednesday, you can set a payment for a Friday later that week. It's kind of like set and forget, everything's taken care of, and it's done all processed through the bank as normal on the day you select. We do use faster payments for all of these payments, apart from HSBC, which is currently the only one which still requires backs to make a payment. But every other bank is a faster payment. So same day, you can go through. It can be pretty much instant, as you know, with faster payments. I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to make a payment with faster payments through Barclays. And at this point is where the security again kicks in. So because we're using open banking, everything's going through the business bank account. So you still have to have access to this account. You still need to be a bank account holder. You need to be on the account that you're using. And I'm just going to log into my Pinsentry, which I've got in my hand here now. Let's have a quick look. Doesn't seem to be working for me. Oh God! Right, this is like one of those nightmare days where everything's. But the Barclays thing isn't working for me right now. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get past this bit without the Barclays Pinsentry working.
Have you got it on your phone, Nick? Have you got Barclays on your phone? It's
not set up for me on my phone, unfortunately. It's the way I catch up. But I'm really sorry, guys. I'm going to have to talk you through how this works. And what we do at the end, we'll share a flow of how it works as a video, as a follow up to everybody on this call, because I'm having some technical issues with my Pinsentry. It's telling me last attempt, and it won't go any further than that, unfortunately. But yeah, what you do is you click the pay button, it will take you through to Barclays. You identify yourself with your Pinsentry. It will then upload this list of payments immediately into the bank. So you don't do anything else. The first screen you will see will be this batch of payments uploaded. And then from there, you just press confirm. And what Comma will do, or what open banking will do, basically, is we'll fire those payments off to each supplier through that one authentication. So you don't need to go in. You're not keying in any of these details. You're not keying in any payment amounts. It's coming from your, in this case, our Xero account, from our invoices. And we're pushing them through to our bank. We're kind of joining the dots between the two. And yeah, with that one authentication, we're paying, in this case, 8 payments to 5 suppliers, and it will immediately push those payments out to those suppliers instantly through faster payments. And then once that's done, it will then push us back into the screen you're seeing now. But what you'll see is you'll see a summary screen of all the payments being made, everything will be marked as paid, and it will then synchronize back to the accounting software. So it'll say, right, we've made the payments for these invoices, and from there you can then reconcile against that. And that's how it works. I'm really sorry I couldn't show you that payment piece, because that's the most powerful piece of what this is, really. So it's a really big shame. But just before I go any further, I'll just quickly show you another part of this, which is payroll, which is obviously a big use case for what we do here. So you can actually, at the moment, we can process payroll a very similar way, but we do this through an import function. So you can import your payroll run. We actually work with a couple of accountancy payroll platforms already. So inside BrightPay, for example, you can download the CSV, which is actually a Comma file, which is immediately recognizable. You drag and drop straight into Comma. It will upload that payment run, and you can then share that with the client and go through that same process of actually paying the payroll run, and you can future date that as well. The other one is Xero, so you can download the Xero backs file, and we actually drag and drop again straight into Comma, and it will upload, and you'll see what that looks like. So I've actually got a BrightPay version, so I've got our BrightPay CSV, which I downloaded earlier from our BrightPay test account, and we import this straight into Comma, and you'll see it creates again a payment run, which is unique. So you can share this payment run with the client. It will come straight into where we are seeing here. Obviously, we've employed some really great staff here. We've got the Avengers all of part of our team. But yeah, from here you can share that. The client can pay, and you follow that same process where it was all done through bulk without the need to manually enter into those details. So yeah, that's the end of a rather annoying demo, which I'm sorry I couldn't show you the payment piece, but that is really the value that Comma brings. You can then, we're basically connecting data from accountancy software such as Xero, BrightPay, and whatever else that you're using to your bank account without the need of a virtual account. So you can outsource that first step and everything up until that payment piece. All you need to do as an end user is just identify yourself and click pay.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Nick. And that final step, we've all seen enough online banking portals in our time. It's not a stretch of the imagination to see, what that would be. And look, I think, it's such an amazing kind of insight there, the way that, the client can kind of bookend the process. So they'll be the ones who get invited as a user and authorize the online banking access initially. And then the way that you as an accountant or bookkeeper can take out all of the work in between, and then serve them up a nice, easily editable, approvable payment run at the end, so that they are still bookending that process and making sure that they're comfortable with the amounts of money that are going out of their bank account as a client. So it's a true win-win opportunity that comes through so clearly. There are a couple of great questions that came through. One from Steph and one from Rich. Steph, hopefully it's okay. You asked a great question about business insurance and the impact of offering this as a service, which I'll pick up with Lara in a few minutes after we've done a couple more sessions. I think Rich's question, it's timely to address now. So Rich was asking about, who is responsible for maintaining the supplier bank details in Xero and validating those?
Do you want me to take that one, Lara, or do you want to?
I think it depends on, as Rich said, it depends on what your agreement is with your client. So for a lot of the time, I will be the one that's double checking the bank details, because I'm the one coming from their client, seeing that paperwork come from their clients or their suppliers and seeing what that paperwork is. But then obviously those bank details are shown in Comma. So they can very easily be double checked by the business owner. And actually, it's quite funny. I had a client this week where I updated the bank details in Comma. For some reason, she was doing something in a rush, decided not to pay it out of Comma, and paid the old bank details to the old client because I'd updated it, and she hadn't. So she just went into the bank and paid it. So obviously it does depend on your agreement with your client. And I know that if you've got certain rules set up in your bank about authorizing new suppliers and things like that, the Comma works with that, because Comma works with whatever rules are in the bank. And the same with payment limits and things like that, it works off the bank's information. So there is always that sort of second check. And as we say, I mean, if you're using Xero and you've got those PDFs, it's very easy to see that information straight there. And you can see within Comma the ones that have got attachments and things like that on the main payment screen, can't you, Nick? So you can double check, but as I say, it's that would be a discussion between you and your clients.
Yeah, it's definitely a service that it depends how you set your service up. If it's something that a client wants you to do, then you can do it for them. We pull details from Xero, and if they're ever updating in Xero, we immediately synchronize them again inside Comma. So Xero can remain a source of truth, and it can be something that you take on as a business and you can add as a service. So yeah, it depends how you set it up, as you mentioned.
Amazing. That's really useful. Thanks, and Rich, hopefully that addresses your question. We've actually had a flurry of additional kind of great questions, and Steph, I apologize, we will still get back to your question, I promise. But yeah, these three I think also kind of make sense to pick up now whilst we're sort of deep in the product side of things. So Josh has asked about, in your experience, do the clients need to contact their bank to request additional services before a bulk payment upload through Comma? For example, talks about Josh's experience with Barclays requiring Barclays.net setting up before bulk payments can be imported there.
I haven't come across that with any of my clients. I've got clients using it with Barclays. It does depend, I guess, on the amount of payments you're doing on the payroll. And as I say, it works off your own bank's authorization and bank's rules. So if they say that you need, if you have more than 25, 30 payments, whatever it might be, whatever the bank limits are going to be, that then pushes that into a bulk payment, then that would still be the same. But I haven't come across any of my clients needing to do anything differently.
Yeah, there isn't any need to. We use open banking APIs, and they exist, and so you don't need to actually. That's the beauty of Comma, really. It's accessible to everybody. There's no need to go and set up extra rules or anything in your bank. We're just pushing payments through open banking. So the only exceptions to that is, again, HSBC. You'll need BACS turned on as part of that. But yeah, and as Lara mentioned, there are limits. So like Barclays, for example, is 50 payees at a time that you can do. Comma works into the logic, depending on the bank that you're using. How we break up that payment run. So if you're paying 100 suppliers, we'll split that into 2 runs, and you'll process that just through two authentications rather than just the one. We make it as seamless as possible, and we take all those little edge cases into that flow. But overall, we don't need to do anything in between. Just you linking your bank account, and as long as it's one of the ones that we support, it's not Metro, for example, you can go. It's good to go.
Amazing, great. That's really clear. Josh says, "Great, thanks." With an exclamation mark. So yeah, awesome job addressing that one. So and then Joanna asks about does Comma handle foreign currency payments?
Not yet. It's something that we're definitely looking at, and it's something that it's come up a few times as we've obviously launched the product towards the end of last year. It's something that's on the roadmap, so I can say.
Okay,
Don't have a date for you yet, unfortunately, but it's coming.
Not yet, but stay tuned to Joanna's question. And then Alex asks, just if you cover what accounting softwares you link with, and you know, in Xero, for example, is the payment information posted to Xero, marking bills as paid, or would this require manual reconciliation in the bookkeeping system?
Yeah, so we connect with Xero, Sage, and QuickBooks, as I mentioned. We also work with other packages like Cashflow, etc. You can see all those on the app when you first sign up. You'll have a list of all the account software that we support. It pushes bills back as paid, but it does still require reconciliation at the moment in Xero. So there is still that same process at the moment. Something that we want to improve on going forward, and being able to streamline that end to end will be sort of our end goal for what we're doing here.
Amazing. Okay, so there's still that final step in the bank rec in Xero to match the two. You know, to say, okay, this is the payment of this bill. Okay, one click. I think we can live with that. Amazing. So brilliant. That's been brilliant to cover those. And Steph, we will come back to your question about business insurance impact shortly. but really excited now to kind of speak, specifically to Lara. And yeah, Lara, if you could just give a bit of an intro about about you personally and the LGA and bookkeeping story.
Yeah, as I said at the beginning, so I'm an Institute of Certified Bookkeepers qualified bookkeeper. I relocated to be with my now husband about 12 years ago. And when I moved up here, I'm a numbers person. I was a cricket scorer. I sort of did maths at school and things like that. So I've always been interested in numbers. And I was doing the bookkeeping in sort of an employed role, just as part of a wider job role. And so when I moved up here as I say, I did my qualifications and sat my ICB exams to get to a level to start my practice, with the intention that at some point I'll add on the rest, but it didn't quite work that way. So I'm a little bit rural. I'm just outside Peterborough, but sort of on the edge of the Lincolnshire. So I live in quite a small town, and I sort of started off by walking around my town and introducing myself to everyone in my town. So 2 of which are still clients, I have to say. But yeah, so doing that, and then sort of I had some contacts from various other things. Had some accountants that I knew that said, look, if you do your qualifications, we'll send some work your way. And I quite quickly or quite early got into sort of Xero and the cloud-based software, because I had a client that was part of a franchise and they were on Sage, and the whole franchise got moved to Xero. So we're talking 7-8 years ago, when Xero was really fresh in the UK market. I'd used Free Agent before that, so I'd used Free Agent sort of 10 years ago, and really was interested in how sort of cloud-based apps and cloud-based software could benefit me and benefit my clients to make the business work how I wanted it to work. So sort of got into learning about software, got into looking at the other options I could do to make myself a bit more paperless, to be able to spread my area of client base as well. So not just looking at my local area, but how can I service clients elsewhere? Because I had an introduction to a client down in South London. And it was like, well, how do I service him while being based in Peterborough? So looking more into that cloud-based sphere and looking at all the things that we could then add on to that. And it's sort of just grown from there, basically, until I was kind of a little plateau a couple of years ago, and then it went a bit bonkers. I got to the stage where I was like, well, it's just me. How do I grow my business with it just being me? So, okay, I can do this as cloud software, I can do automation, I can use all these tools that are out there. That gets me to a point. Where's the next stage? So I got involved and have a virtual assistant now. Although I say she's virtual, she's 10 miles up the road from me, so she's not that virtual, but she's a virtual assistant, and Gemma and her team help with some of the admin, some of the very basic data processing and those kind of things. And I put myself forward for a couple of awards. So I put myself forward for the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers Small Practice of the Year, and I put myself forward for the Xero Awards this time last year, and I got the short final 5 on both of them. And I thought, okay, actually, I might be doing a good thing here. I might actually do extremely good winner with those. But then last November, I went into both the Xero and ICB Awards again, and I won Small Practice of the Year at the Xero Awards. So my little statue behind me is my little Luca from the Xero Awards. And again, I entered from the ICB Awards, and then in a fortnight, I will be down in London at the Troxy for the Xero Awards, because I'm down for the last 3 for Sole Practitioner of the Year again. And I've just gone Xero Gold as well, so it's a bit bonkers here.
Non-stop accolades, amazing.
Yeah, no, it is, because it's just, as I say, it's predominantly just me. So it's the way that I run my business is, how can I utilize so some of my clients had given me access to the bank, but as Nick said, it can be an absolute nightmare. I think I actually did a chain mail once, a literal chain letter of a letter inside a letter inside a letter to go round to all the people that needed to sign it to give me access. Or what I was doing is doing the CS. And so if I had access, I would be putting the payment run in Xero. So using sort of the planned dates to create a payment run, and then saying to the client, look, these are the suppliers I'm intending to pay on this date. Are you okay with that? Or downloading that into an Excel and then altering it, tweaking it, doing what I needed to, taking out all the rows we don't need, those kind of things, and emailing it to the client so that they had that information. But then the responsibility was on them to actually go and make those payments, which would be like, as much as you can help clients and as much as you can say, especially when you're talking about things like VAT and PAYE, you can be going, well, it needs to be there by the 22nd of the month. It needs to be there by the 22nd of the month. The client looks at the spreadsheet, doesn't think about it, and it's like, oh crap. Now the 24th of the month, I haven't paid my PAYE. So there was this whole thing of you were constantly chasing to see whether that had been done, to remind the client that they needed to pay it, or there was this back and forth, or there was a lot of reliance on the client. They had to open the spreadsheet, they had to read it properly, they had to like, oh no, I missed that person out, or I missed that person out, or I meant to pay that, oh yeah, whatever it was. There was a lot of sort of hassle with it being backwards and forwards. And then if I was doing the pay run myself, it could take me 45 minutes to pay everyone, to go through and individually pay all those people, double check bank details, add any new ones in that we need, whatever it was. It was a very time consuming process. And again, with payroll as well, sending someone a different document for payroll or a different report, or relying on them opening the payroll report to pay people. So there was a lot of sort of, it was causing more hassle than I needed it to. I could see what I was adding to that client, and I could see that I was taking the stress away, but I wasn't taking that away fully. There still had to be a lot of involvement from the client in terms of getting that actual payment made. And as you said, the more, and also different banks have different processes for getting set up on them, and some you can have different authorization levels and things like that. So it was like, well, how do we get around this, and how do I provide this service to most of my clients in the easiest way possible? So as I say, about 6 months ago, we're a bit longer than that now, I got in touch with Comma and sort of came across Comma and thought, actually, this is something that would be really helpful for me, to be able to take out that whole stress, to be able to take the information that's already in Xero and put it in the system. Because again, if you're doing the payment run individually, you're still keying in that information into the bank. And as I say, my whole thing is accuracy, continuity, and efficiency. And most of the bit about accuracy is how can we reduce rekeying? If it's correct in one place, it's not going to be correct in the wrong place. If it's correct in Xero, it's going to be correct in the bank. But whereas obviously you can take out some of that human element of I've typed in a 9 rather than a 7, and you're actually the stress around that human element, especially when you're making payments for clients and you're thinking, oh crap, and you're triple checking it to make sure it's right, because you have such concern about making an error on a bank account that's not yours, and how that's going to affect your business, or how that's going to affect business, the owner's business, is such a thing that actually having that information coming straight through from Xero, having that bill, so you've checked them as a bookkeeper, you've processed them, you've checked them, you've made sure you're okay with it, you've done what you need to get it to a point at which that bill is approved in Xero. So then you can be sure that that information that's pulling into Comma is indeed correct. So there's that element. And then, as I say, the client's got the end, they can check it as well. So they can see very easily the amounts that you're paying, why you're paying it, what bills they refer back to, alter it if they need to. If they need to take a payment out, they need to change the amount on something because they've agreed to pay it over a set of instalments, all those kind of things. They have control over that, but it's at a sort of one-click basis. They don't have to do anything to it. They can review, they can see whether they're happy with it. And if they need to, they can do that one-click basis. So there's a lot of sort of, it makes it a lot easier. And as I say, that information is pulling through the whole way through, and then it's marking it as paid exactly at the point at which it's paid. So even if you're running a Xero bank feed that's on a 48 or 24-hour delay, at the point at which they pay it from Comma, that bill is then paid in Xero. So you know that they've paid it straight away before the bank feed comes in. If you don't have access to the bank, you can actually see that they've paid it because Comma's marked it as paid. So again, you don't have this issue of sort of duplicate payments either, because someone will go pay it, forget they've paid it, told someone else to pay it, and then you end up paying the supplier twice. Those kind of things, all these things that crop up if you're doing manual pay runs, Comma reduces that. And again, with Payroll, just being able to drag and drop that file into the into the software, they all pop up on the thing. Or HMRC payments, Nick didn't touch on it, but you can add in specific payments. So you can add in a payment for the VAT, for the payroll, what a PAYE, whatever it needs to be. You can add in these one-off payments, put in the details, and use it that way. And actually, I use it quite often with the people that Nick used to work for, because I have a client that uses Nick's old boss as an FX broker. And when I get that deal ticket through, I will set that up as a supplier, as a one-off payment within Comma, for that client to then go pay off the sterling that relates to that payment run. So there's a lot of different sort of use cases, but it makes things a lot easier in my regard anyway.
Amazing. So there's such rich information there, Lara. So thanks for sharing all of that. I know that will have been invaluable for the audience. So it sounds like, you know, in terms of doing kind of bank payments for clients, there's sort of, you know, there's a crying out need from them there, but historically it's been replete with sort of manual pain and really cumbersome for you in terms of both getting set up. You talked about your kind of chain letter in terms of getting set up on the online banking originally, but then the amount of manual work that goes into preparing that. So it's very inefficient for you to deliver that as a service. But then the other thing that came through really clearly for you is the susceptibility to human error, and, you know, in kind of typing in a payment wrong and paying the wrong amount, be that to a member of staff or be that to a supplier, that you're hypersensitive about when you're doing that as a virtual service for clients. And also the point that you bring through about that, you know, that sort of contemporaneous, you know, up-to-date information on Xero about which bills have and haven't been paid, so that we mitigate the risk of duplicate payment there. So it sounds like there's a couple of real sort of standout pain points in terms of the risk of getting payments wrong. And then there's also the pain point of just how time consuming and cumbersome it has been to deliver this manually, notwithstanding the fact that it's really, really valued and important to clients.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? Anything with the businesses I tend to be working with, they tend to be small limited companies with smaller teams who don't have an in-house accounts person. So they're coming to me for all of that. And one of the things is, well, if you're dealing, they don't want to have to be thinking about a pay run. And invariably it gets done at like 9 p.m. at night, because it's the last thing they think about. Oh crap, I should have paid that supplier or whatever else. And they sit there at odd times doing it. And then because they missed the payment cutoff, it's coming in later, or they do it on a Friday and it doesn't clear to Monday. And then the supplier gets annoyed because they haven't got the money on the day they said they would. It's one of those things that I saw a question about, what resistance do I get? I don't, because my clients come to me saying, how can you help me with this? And if I go to them and say, right, okay, rather than you giving me full control, rather than you giving me access to your bank account, which you might consider a risk, especially at the beginning of a business relationship, there's always that nervousness, isn't it, of a business owner to hand over their bank account with all their hard-earned money into a third party. There's a little bit of a nervousness about that. So say, right, okay, we can reduce that. You still have full control, but I'm doing all the prep work up to that. You can still review it. You'll have the bills to be able to check it against. So you can check that the bank details are correct. You can check all these things. You can check the amounts. You can make sure you're happy with it, and you're the one signing it off. So they've still got that control, but in a lot less hassle that they have to get to that point of paying their suppliers.
Amazing. And yeah, thanks very much, Lara, for picking up the question about what resistance there is from clients. I was going to ask that, and I think this is a great juncture to pick up Steph's question from earlier about about business insurance and what impact offering this as a service has had on your premium.
Because I was offering a payment service before where I actually had access to the bank account, I had to let my insurers know about that. And certain insurers won't cover you if you have access to a client's bank account because they just deem it too high of a risk. It's a bit like in our industry. I know Steph said if you're looking at ICB, we're not allowed to hold client funds. So we're not allowed to do certain things. So we're not allowed to have client accounts and receive money on behalf of clients. We're not allowed to do those kind of things. So again, it's worth checking with your insurer, but there are multiple steps in place. And at the end of the day, the client has the full control. They are the final one making the sign off, and they have all of that information. So in theory, it's no different, I would have thought, in a risk basis for you sending them a spreadsheet with all that information on. It's just you're putting that spreadsheet into Comma and they're not having to go into the bank and make those payments. So they, as I say, they still have the full ability to check the bank details. To actually, they can obviously they'll have access to Xero. They'll have access to those invoices to check those amounts versus it, and the responsibility lies with them because they could change that. They could actually go into your pay run and change it. And I'm assuming Comma keeps a full audit trail of what all the changes that happen and how that happens. So the responsibility is still with the client at the end of the day, as opposed to you. So I haven't actually spoken to my insurers about what the difference is because, as I say, I was covered for full payment runs. But I know that if you were on the bank, you had to have information. They expected you to do certain things to mitigate the risk of paying someone incorrectly, and obviously Comma does a lot of that mitigation for you.
Amazing. And Steph says that's great, thanks. Do you have a disclaimer in your terms to cover you for this?
Yes, there is something I have. I use Go Proposal, and so I use Oversweep with Go Proposal, and there is something somewhere in there about making payments into suppliers. And the risks around that. But yeah, it's always worth double checking. I would say double check with your insurance company just to make sure that they are happy with it. Because obviously I wouldn't want anyone to do anything and then find they're not covered for it, but just explain it to them and explain how Comma works. And obviously if you're using hopefully if you're using sort of a business insurance or one of the ones that specialises in bookkeeping and accountancy, they'll understand.
Amazing. Well, look, Lara, thanks so much. That's been hugely insightful. I'm conscious of time, and we're coming up on the hour, and I know Nick's got a kind of an exciting webinar promo to share. So I want to make sure we have time for that. So if you've got any final questions, please do type them fast in the chat now. I will string this sentence out slowly to give you time to do just that. But look, I think we're in great shape.
One did just come through, David.
Yeah, you mentioned payroll was a big use case, and I see the value there immediately. What's next in this space? And Nick, I think this is a question for you.
Yeah, definitely. A lot. We're doing a lot at the moment, so we're working with some big payroll partners. I can't name any just yet because we're sort of in contractual terms at the moment, so we can't say too much. But we're looking at a way to bring that common journey into payroll platforms. So rather than having to even drag and drop that CSV, which is another manual thing, which can lead to eventually or could lead to errors, although we're mitigating that massively compared to what we do now. Completely removing that manual process and automating the flow from, right, I'm inside my payroll platform and I've prepared my payroll run, pushing that data straight through to the bank via what we do in Comma and through Open Bank APIs is what's next. And we've got some exciting stuff coming this year around that. We're really looking to close the loop, I guess you could call it, on the payroll process. We see a lot of the people we work with, especially that offer that as a service, love what we do around payroll. So we see that as a really quick win for everybody involved, and especially for SMEs, because as I said earlier, we've done case studies on this where like payroll payments just mean a lot more to a business than a supplier. It's just natural that these are the people you work with. You care a lot more about them getting paid, and let's be honest, if you're late a day with a supplier, it's not as big a deal as if you're late to an employee that you're paying their payroll. So yeah, and that's what's coming next, and I'm really excited to eventually launch that later this year, and you'll see us hopefully part of that flow that you're already used to inside your payroll platform.
Amazing. So just becoming even more seamless when it comes to the payroll.
I mean, that's what we're all about. Yeah, like we work really closely with bookkeepers and accountants, but we all have a common goal, and it's the SME at the end of that payment journey that really suffers, and they're the ones that are up at night, making sure they make payments, lying in bed, or whatever it may be, like making sure that they do the last step of the journey. So we've all got a common goal, as I said, to make that as easy as possible and as stress-free as possible. And it kind of almost gets to the point where you don't even have to think about it. It just becomes so simple and so easy, and all that friction's gone. So that's where we want to get to.
Absolutely amazing. Well, look, it's been such a rich discussion. So, you know, David and XE Magazine, thank you for, you know, all the work that's gone into kind of organizing it. Lara, just incredible, like, thanks, such, you know, great insightful points that, you know, you need to have to look at the kind of chat to see the volume of questions, but also the kind of gratitude and how useful people have found the answers to see how much value you've been able to deliver there. So thanks so much. And Nick, yeah, thank you so much for kind of sharing us about the Commerce story, the product, and what's coming up, particularly with the payroll side of things. Nick, I know there was an exclusive kind of promotional offer for our webinar audience that you were keen to share.
Yeah. Before I go into, I just again want to say thank you to Lara, and like wish you the best of luck at the award show. We'll see you there at Xero Award show, because obviously you're up as well. So yeah, I'm sure you'll smash it and you bring them home. You're absolutely amazing to work with.
Thank you very much.
No problem. The offer we've got is, can you see? I don't know if I'm showing the right screen here right now. Can you see the screen in front of it? Yeah, perfect. So usecomma.com is where you go to sign up to Comma, and once you go through that process, you saw as I got blocked through my demo, which I didn't have my account paid for, you can enter the code XUMAG10, and that will get you £10 off for your first 6 months. So that's unlimited payments and full use of the platform. There's no transaction fees on top of that. It's an all-you-can-eat SaaS model that we have in place. So yeah, go to usecomma, sign up, and you can play around with it for free. And when you get to that point, you make a payment, enter this code, and that'll be your subscription. You have £10 off for 6 months.
Amazing. All Steph's asked, is the cost per client or a one-off cost to us as a partner?
So this is we bill per organisation that you link. So that's per client that you bring on. Yeah, and you can talk to us about sort of mass licenses or whatever that may look like. We can have a look at that.
Brilliant. Okay. Steph says thanks. I think yeah. Thank you from my side. That's a wrap. And David, back over to you.
Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks for that. That was really great. And just to confirm, we will be sending out a recording after this and an email follow-up as well. So we'll send the details of this offer as well, just to make sure you've got that in case anybody had to jump off early or have missed it. And also as well, just to confirm that you do get your CPD accreditation for this webinar. So keep a note of that for when you have to fill in your register. And you'll get a link if you want to go back across any points, or send it out to anybody else that you think will find it relevant. Thanks for taking the time for us today, and just thanks to Nick, David, and Lara as well. Lara, I've got my fingers and toes crossed for you for the award. So best of luck, and hopefully it goes well for you as well. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Bye.